What happens when the quiet, seemingly innocent town you've always known suddenly becomes the backdrop for a brutal murder? In Redford, Michigan, that unsettling question became a horrifying reality when a young man's life was cut short, exposing dark secrets and hidden fears that no one saw coming. Redford was one of those towns where everyone smiled at you on the street, but the warmth in those smiles often hid something darker. You know how it is in small towns, everyone knows everyone, and that kind of closeness can be suffocating. St. Paul's Church was the epicenter of this tight-knit community. Every Sunday, the townsfolk would gather there not just for worship, but for the latest gossip. In a town like Redford, gossip was as much a part of life as the air they breathed. Caroline Winters was one of those people everyone knew but didn't quite understand. She had lived in Redford her entire life, residing in an old, almost eerie house on the outskirts, right next to the thick, shadowy forest that seemed to hold its secrets. Caroline was a widow, her husband having died in a tragic accident 5 years before. Even after his death, she remained a respected figure in the town, someone you nodded to on the street but didn't get too close to. It was one of those sweltering August days that you'd expect to be lazy and uneventful, but instead, it became the day that changed everything in Redford. Logan Miller, just 19 years old, was found dead in the dense woods near Caroline Winters' house. It wasn't a sight anyone could easily forget. His body, hidden under a thick layer of leaves and branches like someone had tried to erase him from existence. But no amount of foliage could hide the brutality of what had happened to him. His neck told the story first. The deep, ugly marks left by a rope or some kind of cord made it clear. Logan had been strangled, and it wasn't quick. Whoever did this wanted him to suffer, wanted to see the life drain out of him slowly. And then there were the slashes on his arms. You can imagine the terror, can't you? Logan must have fought with everything he had, his arms cut to ribbons as he desperately tried to fend off his attacker. It wasn't just murder, it was a hate-fueled, savage assault. Sheriff Michael Walker was the first on the scene, and the moment he laid eyes on Logan's body, he knew this was unlike anything Redford had seen in decades. The town was more used to petty thefts than the occasional bar fight, but this was something out of a nightmare. The brutality of the crime hit Walker like a punch to the gut. He'd been sheriff for years, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this level of savagery. Realizing he was out of his depth, Walker made the call to bring in someone who could handle the darkness of this case. Detective Jonathan Reeves from Detroit. Reeves had a reputation for being the guy who could untangle the most twisted cases, the ones that left other detectives stumped. He arrived in Redford with a calm determination that was both reassuring and unnerving. Wasting no time, Reeves headed straight to the woods where Logan's body had been found. The scene was like something out of a horror movie. Broken branches, disturbed earth, and the occasional drop of blood marking the path of a desperate struggle. It was clear to Reeves that Logan hadn't just been dumped there. He had been killed right where he was found. Detective Reeves knew from the start that he had to talk to Caroline Winters. Her house was just too close to where Logan was found, and in a town like Redford where nothing much happened, proximity like that was more than just a coincidence. Caroline was, as expected, shocked by the news of Logan's death. She'd known him since he was a kid. Hell, she probably watched him grow up. But there was something about her reaction that didn't sit right with Reeves. She was calm. Almost too calm, and there was a detachment in her voice that didn't match the horror of the situation. As Reeves dug deeper into Caroline's life, the picture of who she was started to change. It turned out that Logan was more than just an occasional visitor. He was practically a fixture in her life. He'd been spending a lot of time at her house, helping her with chores, and they'd become much closer than anyone in town had realized. People had started to notice, but in a place like Redford, gossip was as common as breathing. Still, the nature of their relationship raised more than a few eyebrows. As soon as Logan's death became the talk of the town, the rumors started flying. And in a place like Redford, rumors had a way of growing legs. People began to whisper that Logan might have been mixed up in something shady, maybe even illegal. Others claim they saw him the night before he was found, walking down Main Street with an older woman. It didn't take long for folks to start pointing fingers, trying to piece together a story that made sense of such a brutal crime. While the town buzzed with speculation, Detective Reeves was doing what he did best, getting to the bottom of things. He started talking to Logan's friends and family, trying to unravel the mystery of who Logan was and what he might have been involved in. It didn't take long for Reeves to realize that Logan had been keeping secrets that might have led to his untimely death. One of those secrets led Reeves straight to Bobby Smith, the town's resident troublemaker. Bobby had a rap sheet full of petty crimes and a reputation for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. People had seen Logan with Bobby just days before he was found dead, and that alone was enough to put Bobby on Reeves' radar. But when Reeves searched Bobby's place and found a rope with traces of blood matching Logan's, things took a dark turn. As the investigation dug deeper, all roads seemed to lead back to Caroline Winters. The town had been buzzing with speculation, and when her daughter Maggie Winters returned to Redford, it was clear she was worried. Maggie had always known her mother and Logan were close, closer than most people realized. But even she couldn't have predicted that this relationship might have spiraled into something deadly. Detective Reeves knew he had to press harder. The time for polite questioning was over. He brought Caroline back in for another round of questioning, and this time, he wasn't pulling any punches. He asked her straight up about her relationship with Logan, about the whispers that had been spreading like wildfire through the town. Had their closeness crossed a line? Could Caroline have been involved in his death? Caroline stuck to her story, denying any involvement with a calmness that was almost eerie. But Reeves wasn't convinced. There was something in her eyes, a flicker of fear or maybe guilt that told him that she wasn't being entirely truthful. It was as if she was holding something back, something that could blow the whole case wide open if only she'd admit it. The investigation took a dramatic turn when Detective Reeves uncovered a crucial link: Logan's connection to a man named George Evans, a recent arrival in Redford with a past that was as murky as the town's gossip. Evans was no saint. He had a history of shady dealings and a reputation that made even the most upright citizens of Redford uneasy. What caught Reeves' attention was the discovery that Logan had been deep in debt to Evans. It wasn't just pocket change either. It was the kind of money that made people desperate, the kind that could make someone like Evans see murder as a solution. Reeves brought Evans in for questioning, expecting the usual denials and half-truths. But what he didn't expect was the bombshell that Evans dropped during their confrontation. Evans didn't just admit to knowing Logan. He pointed the finger directly at Caroline Winters. According to Evans, Caroline had orchestrated the whole thing. She knew all about his criminal past and had used that knowledge to blackmail him into killing Logan. It was a chilling accusation, one that turned the investigation on its head. So what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.